think you in control of your money. But what if something invisible is stealing it from you? What if no matter how hard you work, the wealth you try to build is being blocked by forces you cannot see? I am an ex-witch, and I've witnessed the spiritual chains that bind people as finances. Tonight, the veil will be torn. Secrets hidden in darkness will be exposed. The reason you can never save a dime is not luck, it's spiritual warfare. Prepare yourself, because what you are about to hear could change everything. You've been told that money is earned through hard work, persistence, and discipline. You've heard that saving is simply a matter of budgeting. But the truth is far more sinister. Many people can never save money because they are under a financial blockade, a spiritual interference that no human effort alone can overcome. I know this because I have seen it from the inside. As someone who walked in the occult, I watched how spirits were assigned to attack people as finances. These spirits are not random. They are sent with precision. They target your income, your spending, even the opportunities that come to you. And they work silently, invisibly, until you feel trapped in a cycle of earning and losing, working tirelessly but never gaining. Let me tell you about a man I once observed. He made 6 figures every year. His job was stable, his opportunities abundant, yet every month he would be broke. Bills would mysteriously grow, expenses would spike, and debt would always creep in. No matter how much he earned, it disappeared. I saw the root, a curse on generational wealth programmed into his family line, reinforced by spiritual contracts he never knew he had. These contracts are agreements made, often unknowingly, by your ancestors or by you in ignorance. Sometimes they are created through words spoken carelessly, thoughts filled with doubt, or decisions made in fear. They give legal permission for spiritual forces to siphon your finances. Once these forces have permission, no amount of budgeting or financial advice can save you. You are fighting a battle in the natural, but the war is being waged in the spiritual realm. You may ask, why me? Why is this happening to me when others thrive? The answer is that financial attacks are selective. The enemy targets potential. If you are someone who can grow wealth and multiply it, your financial life becomes a battlefield. Many who struggle financially are not lazy, they are under attack. And the attack can manifest in many forms: sudden job loss, unexpected medical bills, theft, or bad investments that seem coincidental. I remember a woman I worked with. She was diligent, faithful, and generous. She saved every penny she could, yet her money always vanished. When I investigated spiritually, I found a familiar spirit attached to her finances, a spirit assigned to disrupt prosperity. Every time she received money, this spirit would create situations to drain it away. It was relentless. Only after confronting it directly, with spiritual authority and breaking the legal grounds that allowed it to operate, did she begin to see her money accumulate. The truth is brutal. Most people cannot see this. They are blind to the spiritual dimension of their financial struggles. They are told to be patient or work harder. But patience without spiritual action is meaningless. Hard work without removing spiritual barriers is wasted effort. Every spiritual attack on your finances is designed to frustrate, demoralize, and trap you in a cycle of lack. You must understand that money is not just a physical resource, it is spiritual energy. It carries potential for growth, influence, and freedom. When you are blocked spiritually, that energy is diverted, it is stolen. And until the spiritual roots are addressed, the visible, natural solutions, saving, investing, earning more cannot take hold. This is why some people can never save money no matter how much they earn. It is not incompetence. It is not bad luck. It is a battle being fought above your level of awareness. And the first step toward breakthrough is awareness. You must recognize that the enemy is real, that these forces are intelligent, and that they exploit every weakness in your spiritual life. Every time you spend carelessly, every time you give in to fear or doubt, you open the door a little wider. Every delay in confronting these forces allows them to multiply their attacks. And even if you do everything right in the natural, they can still steal from you. I've seen it happen countless times. A person diligently saving, suddenly robbed by circumstances beyond comprehension, not because of mismanagement, but because a spiritual attack was designed to remove their financial shield. You might think this sounds extreme, but I have lived it. And I have seen it happen to people whose only crime was potential. Financial blockages are real and they are deliberate. But here, as the critical revelation, these blockages are not permanent. They can be broken. The key is to identify the spiritual legal grounds, the agreements, the generational curses, the attachments, and to confront them with authority. You may wonder, how do I know if I am under attack? There are signs. Consistent inability to save, mysterious debts, sudden financial losses, and repeated failed opportunities are all indicators. If your finances are a battlefield, it is not because you are failing. It is because the enemy recognizes your capacity to grow and is desperate to stop you. You must also know that prayer alone is not always enough. You need spiritual authority, knowledge, insight, and action. You must learn to break legal grounds, to remove attachments, to confront familiar spirits assigned to your finances. And as an ex-witch, I can tell you, these spirits fear understanding and authority. Once you know their tactics, their power diminishes. Once you speak with clarity, they begin to retreat. This is the first step in taking back your finances, understanding that the problem is deeper than the surface. Your struggle to save money is not merely financial, it is spiritual. Recognizing this truth is the awakening. It is the moment when you stop blaming yourself, stop accepting defeat, and begin to prepare for warfare. The breakthrough begins here. Every lesson in this point is vital. Do not underestimate it. The moment you see the spiritual reality behind your financial struggles, you take the first step toward victory. You begin to see the invisible chains. You begin to see the enemy. And you begin to reclaim what has been stolen from you. The enemy relies on ignorance. The lack of awareness keeps people trapped. But now you know. And knowing is power. You think your money is safe. But have you considered the invisible doors they opened? Doors that allow spiritual forces to access your finances without your knowledge. These doors are created by words, decisions, and patterns in your life that seem harmless, but in the spiritual realm, they are invitations for theft. Every careless word you speak about money, every declaration of lack, every complaint about financial struggles creates a legal entry point. I've seen it countless times. A mother constantly saying, "We'll never have enough," unknowingly handing permission to a spirit to ensure scarcity. These doors may seem small, insignificant, but spirits operate with precision. One open door can lead to years of financial frustration. Let me tell you about a young man I knew. He was intelligent, ambitious, and hardworking. But he had a habit of coveting what others had and speaking envy over his life. Words like, "Why does she have that and I don't?" became spiritual invitations. Soon, every financial opportunity he received would vanish, contracts would fail, and unexpected debts would appear. The words he thought were harmless had opened doors that allowed his finances to be intercepted. Doors are also opened through fear. Fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of not having enough. These emotions have weight in the spiritual realm. A person gripped by fear unknowingly signals to spiritual forces, "You may take, I cannot protect it." And they do. Fear weakens your spiritual shield. It opens doors that allow theft, misfortune, and loss to enter without resistance. Generational patterns also create doors. Family behaviors, curses, and beliefs about money are passed down, often unconsciously. A family that struggles financially may have agreements, spoken or unspoken, that bind future generations. As a child, repeating phrases like, "Money does to grow on trees," or "We are always broke," may seem normal, but spiritually, it is a contract. These doors invite forces that ensure the family remains in scarcity. The enemy also exploits misplaced trust. Lending money carelessly, co-signing without wisdom, or making decisions without prayer are actions that open doors. I've seen people faithfully earning only to have their finances siphoned through friends, relatives, or business partners. The betrayal is not always human, it is often spiritual, operating through human actions. Doors were opened through unwise decisions, and the spirits walked through them with full authority. I remember a woman who gave repeatedly to people in need, but she never prospered. On the surface, her generosity seemed virtuous, but in the spiritual realm, she had opened doors. She gave without discernment, without prayer, without authority, and as a result, every financial blessing she received would be redirected. Generosity in ignorance can be exploited. This is not to discourage giving, it is to awaken you to the spiritual realities behind your financial actions. Debt itself is a door. Borrowing without clarity, without understanding the spiritual implications, or take on burdens without authority opens access for forces to drain your resources. I've seen loans that seemed manageable explode into unpayable situations. I've seen wealth disappear through investments that were blessed in the natural but blocked in the spiritual. Every financial choice without spiritual grounding can become a door. But here is the revelation. Once you identify these doors, you can close them. Words can be reclaimed. Fear can be confronted. Decisions can be realigned with spiritual authority. Contracts can be broken, curses removed, and doors permanently shut. It begins with awareness and ends with action. You must audit your life spiritually. What doors have you left open? What words have you spoken carelessly? What fears have you allowed to dominate your decisions? What family patterns are you unknowingly repeating? The enemy relies on ignorance. Awareness alone begins to disrupt their plans. Prayer is essential, but it must be paired with authority. You must speak with understanding. You must confront the spiritual entities and close the doors they have entered. This is not a suggestion. This is a command from the realm of truth. Reclaim your finances. Reclaim your authority. Reclaim what has been stolen. Every day that passes with doors open is another day the enemy has access to your wealth. Every delay in action strengthens their grip. But as soon as you take deliberate, spiritually informed action, the balance begins to shift. Opportunities will come. Resources will increase. Money will no longer vanish, mysteriously. You will begin to see fruit from every effort you make. Do not underestimate the subtlety of these doors. They are invisible, silent, and cunning. They do not announce themselves, and they do not leave easy clues. Yet, with insight, you can detect them, confront them, and shut them. Once shut, no force can reopen them without your permission. This is why spiritual discernment is non-negotiable. Understand this. The enemy does not want you to save, to prosper, to grow in wealth. Every door left open is a foothold for spiritual theft. Every careless word, fear, and decision is ammunition. For the forces working against you, the breakthrough comes only when you confront these doors with authority, knowledge, and deliberate action. You may feel fear reading this, but that fear itself is part of the enemy's plan. Fear can either paralyze you or activate you. The choice is yours. The moment you take authority over your words, emotions, decisions, and family patterns, you begin to close doors that have been open for years. And once the doors are closed, prosperity can flow. This is the critical revelation. The reason some people can never save money is because they are unconsciously leaving doors open. But when awareness meets action, the tide changes. You can stop the loss. You can stop the theft. You can finally begin to retain, multiply, and protect your finances. The enemy fears an informed and active believer. When you take authority, the forces that have stolen from you will retreat. They cannot hold your money once you close the doors. This is not theory, this is reality I have lived, observed, and now revealed to you. You may not realize it, but your emotions are not just feelings, they are spiritual signals. Every anxiety, every worry, every obsession over money creates a vibration that can attract spiritual interference. The enemy watches these emotional patterns. They exploit them. They feed on them. I've seen people work tirelessly, earn abundantly, yet fail to retain even a fraction of what they receive. Why? Because their minds are battlegrounds. Fear dominates their thoughts. Doubt clouds their decisions. Impatience leads to reckless spending. Every emotion left unchecked becomes a lever for spiritual forces to drain your resources. Think of a woman I knew. Every time she received a paycheck, instead of gratitude, she felt anxiety. She worried about bills she didn't yet have, debts that weren't immediate, and expenses that might arise. These emotions created a spiritual magnet, drawing scarcity into her life. Money flowed in, but it flowed out faster than she could hold it. No advice, no budgeting, no discipline could counteract it. Only when she confronted her fear spiritually, acknowledging it, breaking its hold, and declaring authority did her finances begin to stabilize. Habits are equally powerful. Overspending, procrastination, indulgence in desires without discernment. All these are doors for spiritual forces. They are not merely bad habits, they are contracts in action. The spirit realm interprets repeated behaviors as permission to continue interference. Every unchecked habit is an invitation for loss. Every repetition strengthens their grip. Generosity without discernment can also be a trap. Giving is commanded, but giving blindly, without prayer and authority, can allow spirits to redirect blessings. I've seen people who gave faithfully only to see every financial gain vanish immediately. Why? Because the spiritual rules governing giving were ignored. The blessing flowed outward, but the protection over it was absent. The door remained open and the forces exploited it. Even your relationships can influence your finances. Close connections with negative, envious, or manipulative people create spiritual openings. The enemy can use these connections to intercept wealth meant for you. I've witnessed cases where family members, friends, or colleagues unknowingly became conduits for financial theft simply because spiritual contracts had not been severed. Emotional attachments, when unguided by authority and wisdom, become traps. Now, here is the profound revelation. Every unresolved emotional trauma, every repeated fear, every habit left unchecked can act as a spiritual magnet for poverty. Your mind, your heart, your emotions, these are battlegrounds that directly affect your wallet, your investments, your savings, and your opportunities. Ignorance of this connection is why many people never break free from financial struggle. But there is hope and there is power. Awareness alone does not create change, but deliberate action does. You must confront your emotions with authority. You must break spiritual habits that drain your wealth. You must declare spiritual boundaries around your mind, heart, and financial decisions. Every habit replaced with disciplined, spiritually informed action strengthens your shield. Let me give you a concrete example. A man had a habit of making small, unnecessary purchases whenever he felt stressed. On the surface, this seemed harmless, a treat here, a convenience there. But spiritually, every impulsive expenditure was a key handed to a familiar spirit. It ensured that his finances never accumulated. When he began to pair self-discipline with spiritual declaration, praying over every purchase, breaking ungodly habits, and reclaiming authority over impulse, he began to retain wealth for the first time in years. Patterns of self-sabotage are equally revealing. People unconsciously sabotage their financial opportunities through fear, doubt, or even guilt. Maybe you feel undeserving of wealth. Maybe you believe prosperity is for others, not for you. These internal beliefs act as legal grounds for spiritual forces to intervene. Money comes to you, but just like sand through your fingers, it slips away because spiritually, the permission to withhold has been granted. Every emotional trigger left unresolved strengthens the enemy's grip. Stress about bills, resentment toward wealthier people, jealousy, impatience. All of these emotions become tools for financial disruption. They are invisible chains, unseen by the natural eye, but very real in the spiritual realm. These chains must be broken. Every day you allow them to linger. The cycle continues. Faith is your weapon. Authority is your power, but both must be applied deliberately and consistently. You must speak to the spiritual realities behind your habits and emotions. You must confront every fear, break every pattern, and declare victory over the forces trying to steal your financial future. Only then can you begin to retain, multiply, and protect your resources. This is why the wealthy think differently and why some never retain money. It is not just income or luck, it is spiritual alignment, emotional mastery, and habitual authority. You cannot fight spiritual theft with natural tools alone. You must activate every part of yourself, mind, heart, spirit to reclaim what is rightfully yours. The enemy relies on your ignorance. They count on your fear, your habits, your emotions, and your unresolved patterns. But when you understand the rules of spiritual engagement, when you confront every emotional and habitual door you have left open, you begin to turn the tide. What was once a cycle of loss becomes a cycle of retention, multiplication, and breakthrough. Do not underestimate your power. Every habit you break, every fear you confront, every emotional pattern you realign is a step toward financial liberation. And liberation is not just about money. It is about authority, freedom, and spiritual victory. Now that you understand the spiritual roots, the doors, and the emotional patterns that have kept your finances trapped, it is time for the final revelation, the way to break free completely. This is where authority, knowledge, and action converge. This is where victory begins. The first step is recognizing strongholds. A financial stronghold is a combination of spiritual assignments, generational curses, legal doors, and emotional chains working together to ensure you never prosper. These strongholds are intelligent, organized, and relentless. They monitor your income, intercept your opportunities, and manipulate your circumstances. They are designed to frustrate every effort you make to grow wealth. I've seen families with the same pattern repeated for generations. No matter how many degrees they earned, no matter how hard they worked, wealth always seemed temporary. One year, they would rise. The next, they would fall like a curse playing on repeat. The root is often an unbroken spiritual stronghold, a system that will continue until confronted and dismantled with authority. Breaking a financial stronghold requires direct confrontation. You must identify the spirits, the agreements, the curses, and the doors that have allowed this interference. Once identified, they must be challenged with authority. This is not a passive prayer, it is active spiritual warfare. You speak with understanding, you declare your rights, and you break every chain that has held your finances hostage. Let me tell you about a man whose business failed repeatedly despite his intelligence and diligence. Every investment, every contract, every effort to save was blocked. When we confronted the spiritual strongholds over his life, several things were revealed. A generational curse of poverty, several financial attachments from negative spiritual assignments, and multiple doors opened by fear and doubt. Once each was addressed systematically, his wealth began to stabilize and grow. The breakthrough was undeniable. Spiritual interference was real, and authority over it changed everything. Practical action in alignment with spiritual authority is essential. You must audit your finances in the natural and pair it with declarations in the spirit. For example, every debt you owe must be acknowledged and spiritually confronted. Every unfair contract, every manipulated opportunity, every hidden spiritual attachment must be identified and dismantled. This dual approach, natural diligence paired with spiritual authority, is what turns the tide. Breaking financial strongholds also requires a reset of patterns. You must retrain your habits, your words, and your emotional responses. Every fear of lack must be replaced with declarations of abundance. Every habit of impulsive spending must be replaced with disciplined stewardship. Every negative word spoken over money must be countered with spoken authority, declaring that what is yours by divine right will no longer be stolen. Generational curses must be severed. Many people inherit financial struggles without realizing it. Words spoken by ancestors, covenants unknowingly made, and patterns repeated for decades are all legal grounds for spiritual interference. These must be broken decisively. A prayer alone may be insufficient unless it is accompanied by knowledge, authority, and action. You must confront the root, not just the symptom. Faith is essential in this final stage. Belief alone is not enough, but without belief, no spiritual action can hold. You must act with certainty that the breakthrough is not just possible, it is promised. You must declare with conviction that the enemy has no authority over your finances. Every step you take in faith disrupts the spiritual forces that have stolen from you for years. Let me give you a concrete strategy. Start with awareness, move to authority, and finalize with action. Identify the doors, habits, and strongholds. Speak over them, break them, and declare victory. Pair this with practical financial management, tracking income, saving intentionally, and making wise investments. When natural action is combined with spiritual authority, the results are irreversible. Do not underestimate the enemy's persistence. They will attempt to regain control, to tempt you into fear, doubt, or impulsive decisions. But every time you stand firm, every time you declare authority, every time you refuse to reopen a door, you grow stronger. Your finances become fortified. Your wealth becomes protected. And your cycle of lack is replaced with a cycle of multiplication. Remember, this is not theoretical. I have seen lives transformed, families restored, and wealth retained after years of loss. I have seen financial chains shattered, and what once was impossible become inevitable. It is the power of authority combined with understanding. It is the power of confronting the unseen and reclaiming what belongs to you. You must be relentless. You must be thorough. Every chain, every door, every attachment must be confronted until it is broken. Only then will the breakthrough be complete. Only then will you truly see the abundance that has always been promised. Your financial destiny is not left to chance. It is determined by authority, understanding, and action. When you take these steps, when you confront the strongholds, and when you refuse to allow interference, your money will begin to stay. Opportunities will manifest. Wealth will increase. You will no longer be trapped in cycles of loss. The enemy fears a person who knows the truth. The enemy fears awareness paired with authority. The enemy fears action taken with faith. And this is your revelation. The same forces that have stolen from you for years can no longer touch you once you take command. Your breakthrough is not just possible, it is inevitable. The chains are broken. The doors are shut. The strongholds have been confronted. You are no longer a victim of unseen forces. Your authority has been restored. Every financial loss, every missed opportunity, every invisible attack is rendered powerless. You are now a steward of divine abundance, protected and empowered in the spirit and in the natural. Step forward. Boldly, your breakthrough is here. Your wealth is yours to retain, multiply, and defend. The enemy may have tried to steal, but they have no power over what God has released to you. Rise, take hold, and walk in victory. Your financial freedom begins now.